Hello, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. G.K. Kapoor, former professor, IMI, New Delhi. I have been recording talks on contract law in India. In this series of talks, today I am going to record a talk on breach of contract and the remedies in case of a breach of contract. What is breach of contract? Let me share the screen with you and show you the PPTs. Breach of contract. You will appreciate that both the parties in a contract are promisors as well as promisees. So if any one of the promisors has failed to carry out his part of the promise, he is said to commit or he is said to have committed a breach of contract. Now, the breach of contract can either be anticipatory breach or it can be an actual breach of contract. The term anticipatory breach is self-explanatory. That is, before the time for performance of the promise has actually arrived, the party has done some such thing whereby the other party may well anticipate that as and when the time for performance actually arrives, it will not be carried out. So there are two kinds of remedies in case of anticipatory breach of contract. One, that the promisee may proceed and take an action, including filing a suit in the court of law as soon as breach is committed. Or alternatively, the party may like to wait till the time of performance has actually arrived. That is, may like to convert the anticipatory breach into an actual breach. In terms of the remedies which are available in case of anticipatory breach, the first and the foremost is suit for injunction. Injunction here in simple terms means stay order of the court. We have the facts of an interesting case on this point, the case of Brook Bond Limited versus Vijay Mallya. I'm very sure almost every one of you would have heard of Vijay Mallya. And once again, every one of you will be aware of a multinational Brook Bond Limited, which is now part of Hindustan Unilever. It so happened that Vijay Mallya, who besides his interest in the liquor business, also had interest in certain other industries, including engineering, as well as including the food items. So Vijay Mallya owned a company which was manufacturing tomato ketchup or sauces by the name Kisan Foods. Brook Bond Limited wanted to enter into this business of manufacturing ketchups, jams, etc. Therefore, When they came to learn that Vijay Mallya was selling his Kisan foods, Brook-born people approached Vijay Mallya and a deal was settled for a total price of 7 crores of rupees. It's a pretty old case. Therefore, 7 crores of rupees might appear to be a small amount. 1 crore of rupees was given as the advance money to Vijay Mallya. That was the time when the Nestle had introduced Maggi tomato ketchup as well as Maggi hot and sweet, which had been a tremendous success. Nestle people came to learn that Brook Bond Limited was purchasing the Vijay Mallya's Kisan foods. So they felt threatened because of the strengths of the Brook Bond Limited in terms of its marketing network. Brook Bond, through its tea business, had distribution network in every nook and corner of India. And plus, being a multinational, it had a strong financial base. So Nestle people therefore approached Vijay Mallya and convinced him to commit a breach of this deal with Brook Bond, which had been settled for 7 crores of rupees. Nestle closed the deal for 21 crores of rupees, 3 times the price at which it had been agreed to be sold to Brook Bond. 7 crores of rupees was given as the advance money to Vijay Mallya. So there was enough temptation on the part of Vijay Mallya to jump the agreement. So he committed the breach. But as the industrial spying would have it, Brook Bond came to know of this deal between Nestle and Vijay Mallya. So Brook Bond Limited immediately rushed to the court and secured a stay order. Rest, of course, is history. We all know that Kisan brand of food items, tomato ketchup, jams, etc., they all belong to Brook Bond Limited, presently called Hindustan. I'm sorry. I'm extremely sorry. Its present name is what? Why I'm forgetting the present name, which I explained just a minute ago. You will kindly excuse me for this. But this Brook Bond Limited is part of the multinational Unilever, Hindustan Unilever Limited. So I'm sorry for the hiccup. Claim for damages is another remedy which is available. This we shall discuss along with the remedies which are available in case of actual breach of contract. Actual breach of contract as against anticipatory breach of contract means a breach at a time when performance is due or during performance. So actual breach could be of 2 types. Number 1, refusal or failure to perform when the time for its performance is due. And number 2, breach during the performance. That is the refusal or failure during the performance. Now, during the performance will be relevant in case of those agreements where the performance spans over a period of time. Say, for instance, you happen to enter into an agreement with a builder to construct a building for you. Let's say it is a 5-storied building. After the builder has completed the 1 story, he refuses to carry the work. We shall call it as a breach during performance. Or it could include even simpler examples. You hire a taxi, say Uber or Ola, to go to a particular destination. In between, without there being a sufficient valid cause, that Uber man, the Uber driver, refuses to take you to your point of destination and asks you to get down in the middle of the route. So here, once again, it will be a breach during performance. Now, what are the remedies which shall be available in case of actual breach of contract? These remedies may include, number 1, right of rescission. The word rescission means to terminate. You will appreciate once again that in a contract, in an agreement, both the parties are promisors as well as promisees. So if one of the parties has failed to carry out his part of the promise and thereby committed the breach, the other party, as a reaction to this, need not carry out his part of the promise. We cannot say that if X did not pay the advance money that he was supposed to pay, Y also did not offer the supply of the goods on the promised date. So both are guilty of breach. No, we cannot say that. Y has refused or failed to deliver on the appointed day as a reaction. And this reaction is a remedy which is available to Y, the promisee, in this particular case. So right of rescission is essentially available where the 2 promises are mutual and dependent. That is, if one is not performed, the other need not be performed. However, where these reciprocal promises are mutual but independent of each other, then in that case, even if one has not been performed, the other must be attempted to be performed. Another remedy available is the claim for damages. One of the very important remedies, various kinds of damages are available. As a matter of fact, there are 2 sections in the Indian Contract Act, Section 73 and Section 74, which deal with the damages which shall be recoverable or which shall be payable in the event of the breach. The first, under Section 73, is ordinary damages. Ordinary damages are also called as natural damages. That is, the damages which flow naturally from the breach, which are a direct result of the breach. And the measure of such damages is the difference between the market price and the contract price. So that will be the measure of ordinary damages. Say, for instance, X agreed to supply, say, 100 bags of sugar to Y by a particular date, let's say by 10th of November 2021, at the rate of, let us say, rupees 4,000 per bag. Now, if, say, supposing on the appointed date, X refuses or fails to deliver the specified quantity of sugar to Y, then we shall have to see the market price on 10th of November 2021. If, say, supposing the market price on that date happens to be 4,200 rupees per bag, then the amount of compensation, amount of damages payable as the ordinary damages shall be 4,200, that is the market price as on the date of the breach, minus the contract price, that is rupees 4,000. So it comes to rupees 200 per bag. So that will be the amount of compensation or damages payable. However, please remember, law says that any subsequent changes in the prices shall not be taken into account while calculating these ordinary damages. Now, say, for instance, Y does not purchase those 100 bags of sugar from the market on 10th of November. He prefers to wait for another 4 or 5 days because he is expecting the new arrivals from abroad. So he actually purchases on, let's say, 15th of November, when the price of the sugar has fallen to 3,800 rupees per bag. What do you think? Y cannot claim any damages because he has suffered no loss? Or he will still be entitled to claim at the rate of 200 rupees per bag? As I said, subsequent changes in the prices are not to be taken into account. Therefore, we shall calculate the amount of compensation payable as on the date of breach, that is the 10th of November. And on this date, the price was 4,200. Therefore, in spite of Y having purchased at a later date at a lower price, will still be entitled to receive compensation at the rate of rupees 200 per bag. So that is the concept of ordinary damages. And plus section 73 also says that no claim for any remote loss or consequential loss shall be available. So it is the damages which are directly resulting from the breach which can be recovered, not consequential damages. Consequential damages shall be recoverable only and only if the other party had been made aware of such likely loss in the event of the breach. Say, for instance, if Y on the faith of promise by X had entered into a contract for the supply of 100 bags of sugar at the rate of, let's say, 4,500 rupees per bag with Z. Now, in this case, we cannot say that his loss is rupees 500 per bag. That will be the consequential loss. So consequential losses can be recovered only and only if they were in the stipulation of the parties at the time of making of the contract. And these are called as special damages. And these damages may comprise of loss of profits, loss of rents, and so on. The most famous case on these special damages is the case of Headley versus Baxendale. Now, in this particular case, what happened was that a person, let's call him Mr. A, had contracted with a transport company to deliver a broken shaft to a repairer against a certain amount that was payable. It was established that the transport company was guilty of unduly delaying the delivery of that shaft to the repairer. Consequently, the factory of Mr. A could not function for that delayed period, let's say for 7 days. Now, he claimed the loss of profits for those 7 days that his factory could not function because of that delayed delivery of the shaft. The court held that this was a consequential loss and not being in the contemplation of the parties could not be recovered. The transport company's court said, now they collect the goods and the materials to be transported from various parties to deliver at different points of destinations. And they wait for the vehicle to have its full load. That is why it comes to be cheaper. So therefore, unless the party sending that material or those goods had shown the urgency for which it could have hired the whole vehicle and paid accordingly, it could not, since nothing of that sort had been communicated to the transport agency. The loss of profits, that is the consequential loss, could not be recovered. So that is about the special damages. Now then, the courts have also granted exemplary, punitive, or vindictive damages. The various nomenclatures have been used for these kinds of damages. Over a period of time, the courts have awarded these kinds of damages, which are in the nature of punishment, which are in the nature of setting an example. And therefore, they are out of proportion to the value of the loss that has been suffered by the other party. So they are not really in the nature of compensation. They are in the nature of punishing the guilty party. So the kinds of circumstances in which these kinds of damages have been awarded include, number one, say for breach of promise to marry. Now, please remember that a promise to marry is a serious business. Once you promise to marry, there should be an evidence to that effect. Say, for instance, there has been an engagement and there are witnesses to this, there are photographs and there are witnesses to this, that you had been engaged. Now, if any of the party backs out, in such a situation, the damages to be awarded shall be exemplary damages. The amount of damages will depend upon the hurt to the sentiments of the individual. If, say, supposing the boy has backed out and the girl has been badly hurt, she has gone to the verge of madness, then the amount of damages that may be awarded may run into lakhs of rupees. But if the girl says, "Tu nahi, tere jaise 36 aur sahi," has not been, materially, mentally affected, the amount of damages awarded may be pretty small. So it depends upon the hurt to the sentiments of the individual. The second circumstance in which these kinds of damages have been awarded is for wrongful dishonor of a check by a bank. Wrongful dishonor. That means the check is in order in every respect. There is a sufficient balance in the account. The signatures of the drawer tally with the specimen signatures available with the bank. So check being in order in every respect, and still the payment has been refused by the bank for one or the other reason, unjustified reason. In such a case, depending upon the amount of the check dishonored, the damages are awarded. And there is an inverse relationship with the amount of the check. Smaller the amount of the check, larger will be the amount of damages that may be awarded. Because if a small amount check is dishonored, particularly for the reason funds insufficient, the credibility of the person is hurt the most as compared to a situation where a check of a substantially higher amount is dishonored. Because in that case, the other party is likely to think that maybe there may be certain checks under clearance, or the party may not have been able to organize the funds. If, let's talk to the party, and maybe if we present the check at a little later date, this will be duly honored. So that's about the claim for damages. And the last one, of course, in the list is the nominal damages, which might be awarded where the party has actually not suffered any loss. So where party has not suffered any loss, but the case has been filed. So what should the court award as the compensation? Only to recognize that, yes, you were right. Technically, legally, you are right. But since we have not suffered any loss, Therefore, a token amount may be awarded, like say 100 rupees may be awarded as the damages, but this will be along with the cost of the suit that will be so awarded. So such damages are awarded purely at the discretion of the court. I will like to stop here. Other remedies we shall discuss in the next video. So thank you very much. See you in the next